This is KTN News.
Last year, Blaze Mentors engaged and inspired youth in Eldoret. Join us at Eldoret Sports Club on the 7th of October 2017 to experience Be Your Own Boss 2.0. We have an all-new team of mentors: Yashinsky, Brian Wanyama, Jugush, Safe Joe, and many more. Come audition to be part of Season 2 of the BYOB TV show. Pitch your idea to a panel of judges and you could be the next Valentine Nekesa, winning Season 2 of the BYOB TV show and taking home 5 million Kenyan shillings in cash and business support to turn your passion into a reality. If you're under the age of 26, simply go to blaze.co.ke. Blaze. Join the movement.
This is KTN News. You're watching Crossfire. Thank you for staying with us. We are focusing on the Election Laws Amendment Bill. I'd like us to listen into what Deputy President William Ruto had to say about this particular amendment, as well as NASA's flag bearer Raila Odinga.
Mahakama ilisema IEBC haina makosa. Walisema systems ndio iko na makosa. Na vile ya kurekebisha system ni kupitisha sheria. Agwambo wenyewe akasema no reforms, no election. Sasa tumemwambia wacha tufanye reform kwa bunge.
Sasa imesema sasa naenda sasa extra time. Dakika 30 imeongezwa ziada. Sasa unakaa chini sasa tunabadilisha sheria. Kama ukishika mpira kwenye box pande yako ni penalty. Lakini ukija pande yangu si penalty. Je, hiyo ni mchezo kweli? Hiyo mchezo kweli? Tunasema hatutaki Jubilee ikubaliwe wabadilishe sheria ya mchezo na wao wenyewe ni wachezaji.
Mheshimiwa Abu, let me begin with you. Mulisema no reform, no election. Ndio hizo reform tumewapea.
I think the Deputy President is not being sincere at all.
Why isn't he being
Because
sincere?
the type of reforms they're bringing up, which I've already talked about, are really not the reforms that would cure what the Supreme Court brought out. Because when you look at the amendments they're bringing out, those are amendments that is supposed to manage IEBC in how they have their meetings, in how they pass their resolutions. Those were not the issues there. They must do reforms that actually will correct the anomalies that were pointed out in the Supreme Court ruling. Then we'll be doing reforms. But what they are calling reforms are only things that are to answer to their fears as Jubilee. For example, their reforms categorically are trying to bring down the powers of the chairman. The chairman has been given mandate in the Constitution, okay? And he is the only person who swore at the time that they were being sworn in as commissioners by the Chief Justice. He swore as a chairman of the commission. Now you want to take that away from him and say that in the IEBC meeting, anybody can be a chairman or can act as a chairman so long as the meeting or the members appoint him as the chairman.
So basically, these are not the reforms that you guys are looking for.
Not to us guys. I'm saying those are not the reforms that would answer to us having a credible, a free and fair election. Those are not the things. Why don't they tackle the real issues that led to the annulment of this election?
Mheshimiwa, NASA's flag bearer Raila Odinga says this is tantamount to changing rules halfway. Like it's you're in a game and then you change these rules halfway. And while you're on that, could you kindly address this concern that has been raised that there was no consultation? It's basically a one-sided kind of thing.
Yeah. You know, first and foremost, I think on the issue of consultation, anybody can bring an amendment to any law in Parliament. So, Linda, it's not really a question of saying Jubilee has brought. You know, if you actually do think that you have a counter-argument, you present them on the floor of the House. Then the House will decide. And every member is allowed, even to amend, you know, the proposals on the floor of the House. And that is the role that we've been given in Article 95 and 96 of the Constitution, Linda. When it comes to issues of introducing rules midway, I mean, really, if we really follow the Curricular Commission as a country, all of this would have been done 2 years before. So we must always ask the question, and I will keep on asking this. Who went to the streets to demand IEBC be removed? And even now, what is the solution of NASA? The solution is to remove individuals. So we removed Kevuito, we removed Isaac Hassan, now we removed Chiloba and Chebukati. I don't know what we are going to do. And the idea that, Linda, now we accuse everybody of being in the conspiracy, including, you know, companies like Safaricom, you know, all of those. I don't think so. Personally, IEBC, we waited for the final ruling, the detailed ruling, sorry, because the ruling had already been done on 1st of September, so that IEBC can know what to correct. And I think nobody was found culpable as an individual. But IEBC now can change. In terms of the laws, and by the way, there's a misconception out there. The ruling did not say that you should have existing laws. It's applicable election laws.
Okay, but
that is, Linda, that is the actual text. That is the actual text of the ruling.
But does it? Does it bother you that these changes are coming 24 days to the election? And then Wafula Chebukati, who just paid his bite, he says he hopes this will not fundamentally change how they will be required to conduct this election.
No. I don't think so, because we are not introducing anything new. We are only clarifying between electronic and manual. We are clarifying about who should participate in a new election, in a fresh presidential election, as per the 2013 ruling, the Mutunga ruling. We are also clarifying about what should be in the form. So by the end of the day, Chebukati has nothing to worry, really. In fact, if I was to be asked, we are helping him to do his job better.
Okay. Yeah. Mheshimiwa, they're helping Chebukati to do his job better. They're not changing anything fundamentally.
You know, if you look at, and I'm glad that Isaac is smiling. And behind that smile is disbelief of what he's saying, you know, because he knows what he's saying is not true. Yeah. I think that my biggest problem is, we saw what happened in 2007 when the then President Kibaki decided to appoint ECK commissioners on his own, disregarding the IPPG of 1997, or just consensus. Because remember, when you're going to an election, you're not going alone. You have other people competing with you. And other people, it's just like a football match. You cannot go into a football match where you are two teams competing against each other, and you have one team happy with the rules and the other team pointing out what they think is fundamentally wrong with the rules. You can't go into a match like that and call it free and fair. The real essence of having a match and coming out with a winner is that the rules should be basically acceptable to both sides, so that if you play and you win, it is okay. If I win, it is okay. But if I feel that the rules have been made by you and the rules favor you, when I lose, I'm not going to accept it. Or when you win, your win is not going to be legitimate, or I will not consider it legitimate. So what happened in 2007, the then President Kibaki went ahead and came up with this new set of commissioners, which the other side actually felt like, no, you favored and you've picked people who are favorable to you, and we do not agree. Let us build consensus. And I think the key to this is consensus. What is happening now is the laws that were brought up or that were put into effect by two parties through the Kiraitu and Orengo committee. Those are the laws that are being changed now by Jubilee on their own. Why is it difficult? Just the way we had consensus in that committee. Remember that particular time, there was that famous quote that, do not even change a comma. Okay. And that was the agreement. Why is it that a few months later, and just 25 or 24 days into the next presidential election, they, on their own, are taking it up to change some of those things that were agreed on by the two sides? Okay. Does that make the playing field level? And does that allow for calmness and peaceful and election that everybody will accept its outcome? I need to listen to James Orengo and Kindiki Kithure, and then we can have your final comments on, okay, we need to have a way forward on this. The bite by James Orengo, Senior Counsel James Orengo, and Kindiki Kithure as well, on the meeting that IEBC was meant to have with Jubilee and NASA at the Bomas of Kenya. Remember that meeting flopped. Let's listen in.
Thereafter, they said that the repeat elections or the fresh elections must be conducted in strict compliance with the Constitution and the law. Now, these bills, basically, their objective is to remove everything, to amend everything, which was the basis of the verdict of the Supreme Court, which means that the electoral system in Kenya has changed fundamentally.
NASA, they have spoken to you, but our feeling is that they have so many demands, which of course we understand are demands which are supposed to make the election not to happen. We would want also to tell Kenyans that for us in Jubilee, our position, politically speaking now, is that the election must continue. Because this country cannot keep on having an endless season of politicking. Our economy is suffering, Our people need to move on with their economic activities and put bread on the table for their children. So politically, we'll do all what is possible to ensure that the election takes place so that the country can move on. And on that basis, our friends, in short, have aborted the meeting themselves.
Okay, lots of back and forth over this. Mheshimiwa Mwaura, in 30 seconds, how do we move forward from here as we begin a new week? 30 seconds, please. I
think we will have an election on October 26th. There is nobody who should be seen to be threatening Kenyans that there is not going to be elections, saying that on one side there is not going to be election, while at the same time campaigning. You know, you're speaking on both ends on your mouth. It's also not good to say, for example, that elections can only go if according to your own terms. Really, we must put the Kenya first. Let IEBC independently do its job. Let there be, processes that are above board. If you have any legal contestations,
bring it up.
Bring it to Parliament, and let's move forward. But remember, we have one country, Linda. Yeah. We have one country, and we must all protect it.
Mheshimiwa, 30 seconds.
Has that taken my 10 seconds? Listen, the difference between Jubilee and NASA is NASA keeps on saying that we are proponents of uchaguzi bora. Jubilee, on the other hand, wants bora uchaguzi. I think what is good for Kenya, it's not just bora uchaguzi. It is an election that's credible, that we will all accept results of that election. So what we must do is that two teams must sit and agree what are the basic elements that can give us that uchaguzi bora.
Okay.
And go for it without trying to hide through silly reforms that will not amend or correct things that made us end up this way.
That's a good place to end it. That's a good place to end it. Rosa Buyu.
You're not serious, that's why
I said silly reforms.
No.
I said silly reforms.
Rosa Buyu, Kisumu Woman Rep, thank you so much for your time. Isaac Mwaura, Jubilee nominated Senator, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for watching Crossfire. Let's do this all over again next Sunday at 8 p.m. I'm Linda Ogutu.